Welcome to Eurofins Viracor Clinical Diagnostics Podcast, where I'll be sharing up-to-date scientific advances, key diagnostic testing, and our most recent innovations. Welcome to our podcast. This is our fourth year hosting our live in-booth interview show, Transplant Radio. Our aim is to connect with the transplant community, a diverse group that includes professionals, donors, patients, and even doctors who are also recipients. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, you can find our email in the episode summary. Amplify your influence on Transplant Radio. Enjoy episode 2 of our 15-part series.
All right, so let's begin. It's my privilege this morning on Transplant Radio to sit with Shara Brice, who I've spoken only briefly with, but already come to understand her deep heart and passion for what it is that she does, and she's going to share a lot about that with you, hopefully, in the next 30 minutes when we begin. But before we do, I'd really love to hear a little bit, Shara, about what brought you to Gift of Life. And the history of your nonprofit work and how along the way everything has been inspirational, and this is included in that great package. So what got you here?
Rob, thank you so much. It's great to be here today. I think from the time I was very young, I really loved looking for ways to build and strengthen communities. So I started my first nonprofit when I was 14. I started another movement when I was 19. But then when I was 23, I moved to England. My husband was English. I'd met him when I studied in Oxford. And so all of a sudden I was in a brand new country, and I had to kind of re-navigate how I was going to connect and fit in. And I took a job there starting a new council for voluntary service. When I was hired, I was told there are 400 voluntary organizations in this county. Your job is to build connection. Within 6 months, I realized there were actually 700 voluntary organizations in that county. And I had the privilege of assessing their needs, finding out what they had in common, launching a volunteer bureau, a funding support bureau, a transport scheme, and really working with the local government, with the National Health Services, with social services, and so that community intersected and was able to support itself. So loved that. And then we moved to another part of England. We lived in East London. We lived in the parish with the highest rates of crime, unemployment, and poverty in all of Northern Europe. We also had the largest concentration of under 10-year-olds in the nation with the lowest level of provision. So wherever you are in the world, if you have a lot of kids with nothing to do, you have trouble. Mm-hmm. So I started a program called the Ascension Eagles, and we used cheerleading as a tool to engage them. But really it was cross-training for life with leadership and life skills. And that program turns 30 this year. It continues to serve 1,000 young people a month. And they are not only British champions, but they were ranked 5th in the world for their overall skills. So, and again, that is a generational thing where they're very engaged in an activity that then leads to academic purpose and career development. And I really believe in getting to the heart of what drives community and getting people to come together and make a difference. So that was fabulous. Then we moved back to America, and we lived in Aspen, Colorado, and I had the privilege of working for an organization that builds communication and leadership skills, and so I got to do training with educators and healthcare providers and first responders and help them focus on the way they connect with one another, so that they treated people well and created environments where people were able to be their best selves. So that was great. Finally, I got to come back to Kansas City after 28 years of living in England and then in Colorado. My family's in Kansas City. My heart had been in Kansas City. And it was a chance of saying, okay, what do I want to do at this stage in the journey? Mm-hmm. And I found out about Gift of Life. And after 40 years of working in nonprofit space, you know, our time on this earth is limited, and it's great to be able to live purposefully. And I was so impressed with what Gift of Life was doing, and I applied, and 2 years ago this month became their executive director. Their history is 27 years strong. They're in the heart of Kansas City with a nationwide impact, and I just feel so honored to get to be part of that work.
That's awesome. You skipped some intriguing parts of the history of your life as well, like you were a torchbearer in the Olympics. And we had an Olympian here yesterday, Chris Klug. He talked to us about his transplant journey and how much he's really thriving now. And I understand you have some connection with Chris as well. But how did Chris's message yesterday just remind you, reignite in you why it is that you're doing what you're doing and how important it is to transplant medicine?
That's a great question. It was fabulous to hear Chris speak last night, and afterwards in the kind of welcoming ceremony here, so many people were coming around the booth just talking about his story. And seeing Chris on the stage last night, I was as impressed as anyone. What's pretty special is when we lived in Aspen, Chris went to our church, and my husband, who's ordained Church of England but Episcopal here, he baptized Chris's kids. He married Chris's sister. My kids babysat Chris's kids. And the beauty of transplant, and Chris's liver transplant was 25 years ago last week, is that it's a huge story and it inspires all these people. But behind the scenes, I worked with his mom and his dad, and I know the difference of having their son for that extra 25 years made, right? Yeah. I know his brother and sister and his beautiful kids and his wife, and it's the everyday life behind the transplant that is the community of people who keep giving and are so generous. And I've worked in nonprofits for 40 years, and I love that sector. I love doing what we can to fill gaps in society, but the transplant community is unlike anything I've seen before, because people's lives are saved, or for those who are donor heroes who their loved one has made other lives possible. There is a spirit of connectedness and generosity that's a privilege to pull together and to be part of. So yeah, seeing Chris last night, that was really fun, and it did remind me, just as you said, there's a big public voice that inspires us all and calls us to action, and there's a behind-the-scenes human who is just grateful for each day. And that gift of life is something we're all grateful for.
Yeah. Shara, as you point out, it's not just some one person who is so thankful for that gift of life, but there's a mom, dad, sister, brother, aunt, uncle, friend, associate, compatriot who loves to come alongside that person too in their journey. So you've used this word heart several times already in our conversation. So what's at the very heart of what it is that Gift for Life does?
Well, our organization was founded 27 years ago by Kim and Nate Harbour out of gratitude. Their son was born, and they were told he won't make it to years old without a liver transplant. And thankfully, when Luke was 11 months old, he received a direct donation from a little boy, Aaron, who was 8 years old. He was on vacation with his family in the Lake of the Ozarks, had anaphylactic shock, was life-flighted to hospital. And when his parents realized that Aaron wasn't going to make it, they had heard of Luke's story, and they did a direct donation of Aaron's liver to Luke. It miraculously was a match, and Luke received that transplant. And 2 weeks ago, Luke turned 30. So, 30 years of life with that liver. But his mom and dad, after the transplant, first of all, they're very bright, well-educated, well-connected people. And they had no idea about the world of organ donation. They felt really alone trying to navigate the journey. And they didn't want other people to be in that circumstance and not have a community of support. So they founded Gift of Life in gratitude for the gift that their son had received. They started, Kim, our founder, who's still involved, she said when she turns 70 in 2027, she's going to go part-time. But she devotes every day of her life to this mission. And she started a program called Lifesavers, and she started it in Kansas City, and it works in high schools, really targeting students about the time they're getting their driver's permit. And they're asked that question, do you want to be a donor? And the whole education program is quite simple, but incredibly effective, set up around educating, not persuading, students to be able to understand the question, do you want to be a donor? Mm-hmm. So we work with 75% of Kansas City high schools, but we also have a Learn Lifesavers program available online that schools anywhere can use and access without charge. And in communities that have used this consistently, donor registration rate averages 80%. Now, you may know in America, 90% of Americans say, yes, I believe in organ donation, but on average, only 60% register. So we have this big gap from intention to action. So we feel excited that in counties that are using this, it's averaging 80%. And in the county where it began, our registration rate is 98%. It's one of the highest in the nation. So education makes a difference, and Gift of Life is part of that.
98% sounds almost impossible or improbable in truth. How did you get there?
Well, it's one lesson at a time. So, when we work with the students, we ask them just 4 questions at the end. They're anonymous, but we ask, did you know about organ donation before this presentation? 50% of them said no, they did not. We ask them, do you feel ready to make your decision now? Not asking them what their decision is, but do you feel ready to answer that question? Do you want to be a donor? 94% say yes, just after one presentation. And then we ask them, do you commit to sharing your decision with a loved one? And about 95% say yes, we'll do that. And the final question is, how many people will you commit to talk to? So it's one lesson at a time. We're also doing that in workplaces now too. And it's amazing how many adults are like, yeah, I think I do, but I have some questions, and we do just some basic myth busting. And so every one of our presenters and lifesavers, they have a connection to transplant, so they share their story at the end of it too. So then all the people in the room feel like, oh, I know someone that this has happened to. We also have a big lifesavers rally each year, and that's where like 500 high school students, a lot of them are interested in studying health and science at college. They come together, and we have transplant surgeons, and this year we have a coordinator of the chain donation process coming to talk about that. We have donor families share their story, and transplant recipients share their story. So it's a half-day event, but then students really come away with stories. And when you hear stories and you're inspired because it's relevant to you, you keep talking about it. So in terms of getting that impact, we can't stop doing it. We can't say, oh, 98%, that's good, because every year another group is answering that question. So it's consistent education. We also have an amazing OPO, Midwest Transplant Network in Kansas City, and we have some fabulous hospitals. So it takes a whole community. But Gift of Life, we are small, but we've got that big impact.
Small but mighty.
Absolutely.
I keep wanting to call Ascension Eagles Ascension Angels.
Well, that is funny, because when I started that program, I tried to give the young people choice, and I really wanted Eagles, but I said, we're going to vote, and you can choose to be the Angels or the Eagles. And there was no way these girls wanted to be called Angels, so it didn't go with the street reputation.
Right, okay.
But they chose Eagles, and it has been very fitting as they have soared from victory to victory in so many ways. I love hearing about, some of them are in the West End, some of them went on to do TV and movie, but a lot of them became nurses or educators or, working for the local government, just doing things of purpose. And, that program took them out of a community that had so many limitations, and they traveled the world as ambassadors. They were invited to Hong Kong, to Japan, to America, to Germany, to Slovenia, to Finland. So it was an incredible way for kids who had this label that said you cannot do things to say you can do anything, soar on.
So speaking of small but mighty, the success with this program, Ascension, I keep wanting to say Angels, but Eagles, is phenomenal, right? It still endures even today. So as you think about what called you to Gift of Life, you have a clear passion for it, a real heart, obviously a servant's spirit. But you only have a staff of 6,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
So how do people get involved with Gift for Life, or how do people get connected even and how do you train those folks up that really want to help? And maybe I'm going to talk more with your partner that's here about that in the future. But there are already other programs where people can just get engaged, even local events. So tell us a little bit more about those things.
Thanks, Rob. Yes, so Gift of Life, we have 2 flagship programs, Lifesavers that I've mentioned, and if you are in the vicinity of Gift of Life, you can have in-person presentations. Learn Lifesavers is available online. Our other program I haven't had a chance to tell you about is Transplant Mentors, and you'll have an interview with Patty on Monday, I believe. And Transplant Mentors is so exciting because, as we know, there's about 103,000 people on the transplant wait list, and that is a scary, lonely place to be. Our Transplant Mentors takes people who are 1 year post-transplant, who have been referred from their transplant center, carefully vetted and trained, and pairs them with people on the wait list. We also offer that for care partners who've been through it, paired with care partners who are waiting. And we are exploring launching a living donor program because just in the last 6 months, we've had interest from 11 living donors saying, okay, let's broaden this reach and make an impact. So we spend almost 80% of all of our money goes straight to the programs. 5% is spent on fundraising, and with that 5%, we generate 40% of our revenue. So we are very good stewards. We have a very lean budget, but those events that generate those revenue that you mentioned, we have a golf tournament in September. We have a trivia night that Your Friends by Recourse supports. Well, they actually support all that we do. They do our golf, but they actually won our trivia event last January. You've got smart people working for your organization.
Very fortunate.
Very smart people and fun people. And then our biggest event of the year is Go, See, Do. And like I said, I've done nonprofit work for 40 years, but Go, See, Do is unlike anything that I've seen. It looks for bespoke, curated tour opportunities in Kansas City. So we choose a dozen tours and things you couldn't normally see. And people get to go on a 1-hour behind-the-scenes tour, and then they gather at the Grand Hall Power and Light in Kansas City, and we have an incredible live auction and a silent auction as well. And we have a program that educates about organ, eye, and tissue donation, and light bite foods, but it's really a special reunion of people who've been impacted by Gift of Life. They come together and celebrate and give back. And it's in the afternoon, we're not talking evening gowns and big swanky affairs. All of the opportunity and money really focuses on the essential work that we're doing. So Gift of Life has, volunteer opportunities through Lifesavers because we do have a small team. We have 6 people working in our office. We have 3 more people who are part-time educators who devote their time going into the classrooms. And then we have with our Transplant Mentors, this whole network. We started with 4 hospitals in Kansas City referring. Last year, 47 hospitals nationwide were saying, will you connect our patients with people who've been there before?
When we're here at this show at World Transplant, we are here as a group of 5, now 6 companies that are from pre-transplant even all the way through post-transplant and making sure that patients remain healthy. So everyone here is all about this transplant journey, but you're doing it in a completely different way, right? We're doing it from a medical perspective. Let's make sure you get the right answers in the shortest amount of time possible so that you can have the best possible treatment journey. And I would love to say that we Sherpa people along that path. But it sounds like Gift for Life really does that in a way that's so incredibly unique. You've got people that have been there and understand everything, and as much as anybody can understand everything that's going on in a transplant journey. So if there were one key takeaway from our time this morning, thinking about that, like how you guide, coach, mentor, lead, in schools, helping people make the decision, but then also in the mentor program, helping people through the decisions that they have to make. What's the one thing you really wanted to know about Gift for Life?
Well, our vision is a vision I think that everybody here really resonates with. We envision a world where there's a transplant for everyone who needs one. And it takes a whole community pulling together to make that happen. It takes the innovators, the researchers, the practitioners, all of us coming together, and the advocacy, so that when that opportunity comes, if you've said yes, you have a chance to give the gift of hope to someone who's been waiting. And we're in it for the long haul. All of us are. And I really sense that hope and that purpose here in this space. And so, Gift of Life, we are small but mighty, as you said, and it is a privilege to work alongside this bigger industry. We have the opportunity, the need is there. We have 447 school districts that are saying they're interested in tapping into Learn Lifesavers. We need to build our capacity. It's small money in this big scheme of things, but it unlocks the potential for us to be able to reach even more people. And that's what we want to do. We want to fill the gaps so that all of this comes together and truly there is a transplant available for everyone who needs one.
It's funny that you said it's not just a gift for life, it's a gift of hope. And when Michelle and I were talking about this interview last week, because she was going to do it with you, and then she was called away to a family wedding, and I know that she's been on your board for a while, and she loves what it is that you do. But I kept calling it hope. It's like, no, it's good for life. Like, well, but it's hope. It provides a clearer, as clear as this pathway can be, a clear pathway for someone to see that there is a way, and we will get through it as best we possibly can. So we're incredibly privileged to work alongside, participate in the events. It's tons of fun for us. It's something that we look forward to every year as an organization. I'm not the only person that thought they'd already met you, because Gift for Life is what it is as an organization. So glad that you've found your way here too, and so thankful that you came and spoke with us this morning.
Rob, thank you so much for having me, and we are so grateful for all you continue to do and for the stories that you are going to draw out this weekend. I look forward to listening to them as well. Yeah. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Shara.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and follow us on social media to stay up to date on all the latest information. If you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your friends and colleagues to subscribe too. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Podbean, and more. With over 40 years of diagnostic innovation and specialized expertise in infectious disease, pre- and post-transplant, allergy and immunology testing for immunocompromised and critical patients, Eurofins ViraCore is committed to helping medical professionals, transplant teams, and reference labs get results faster when it matters most. ViraCore is passionate about delivering value to our clients by providing timely, actionable information, never losing sight of the connection between the testing we perform and the patients you serve.